This is Housebound. I'm Chris.
I'm Holly.
I'm Ashlyn.
I'm Greg.
And you're invited.
Welcome to Housebound, a podcast we made because we needed some company. In it, we talk about things that are on our minds, and today,
We're talking about winter driving.
I started driving in the winter because my birthday is in January, and I had to take my driver's test in the winter, so all of the training that I did was actually in December and January. Did you guys also learn to drive in the winter, or some other season?
I also learned how to drive in the winter. Well, yeah. The training course was like in the end of February, beginning of March. So there was still snow. It wasn't an extreme amount of snow, but as a result, I feel very comfortable driving in snow because of that, I think.
I feel like that's almost the spring, though. Like slush.
Yeah, it was, well, like the driver training happened earlier than there were different classes or different groups of kids that were sent through for different periods of the class. So there were like 1 month where kids whose birthdays were this date to this date went through, and then I was in group 3. And so by the time they got to me, I was in, like I said, the end of February, beginning of March. But I mean, we've had some pretty crazy winters recently, so it's not too outrageous to expect snow midway through April, right? So
That's true.
I don't know. For me, I definitely started learning how to drive in, I'm pretty sure, like spring or summer, which meant that by the time I passed the test, I definitely was still learning to drive in winter. So.
Oh, so you're going at it from a technical perspective.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I would say that, like, to start off with, definitely springtime, and which made it super easy for like passing tests and stuff. But that is, living in Saskatchewan, that is only the bunny hill compared to, what's the one at Table Mountain or whatever? I don't know. The Black Diamond or whatever.
Diamond.
Yeah. So that's essentially springtime driving is the bunny hill, and Black Diamond driving is winter. So
Yeah.
I was in for a rough wake up call. So yeah.
To clarify, there are Black Diamond trails at every hill, but I understand what you mean.
You got it. Yeah.
You guys are intense. My story of me getting my driver's license is a little bit longer than I wish that it was. A little bit too eventful. But
It's okay, we got a whole podcast episode to fill. So
I like in Saskatchewan here, you do like a written exam and then a like some performance practice driving. And so I believe that was in the springtime. And then I did a little bit of practicing in the summer, but I largely just didn't drive for I think it was around a year and a half that I just didn't drive for. I tried, but I was very stressed out. It was bad. And then eventually the fall was coming, and I was at Bible school at the time, and I really just needed to get my license because I just needed it. The learner's license wasn't going to cut it. And so I had a friend of mine practice with me from Bible school and just from life, and eventually had the courage to go and get my exam. And so I got my exam like a couple weeks before the snowfall.
Oh, man.
Because I did not feel prepared to take the exam in the snow. So I did it in like late fall, just before snow.
That's fair. I come from a farm, and so I did do some driving before I was actually legally allowed to drive. And in Alberta...
Whoa, shh.
They're going to get you. In Alberta, you take your learner's test, which is just a written one when you're 14. And so I'm like relatively good at school, and decided that I didn't need to study very hard for this exam
Okay.
because everything was like really common sense.
You would think,
And
yeah.
it very much is common sense,
Yeah.
except that a lot of well, this is what I felt anyway. And this is still my view after going through all of high school and 2 different post-secondaries and learning what a good written question is
Mm-hmm.
and a good multiple choice question is. So the learner's exam it took me 8 tries to
Oh,
pass
man.
my learner's exam.
No way.
because-
Wow.
So
How did you
could
not
only
learn
get
after the first one?
because my dad was paying for it for me, probably.
Or the 5th one? That's
Yeah,
bonkers.
right. Okay, so you can only get 3 questions wrong.
Uh-huh.
And there are 8 different exams that you can
Oh.
cycle through.
Oh man,
So
you almost tried
it's
For
them
that
all.
like I
reason,
was
for that
writing-
reason, probably, right?
Yeah, probably. So it's not like I was writing the same exam over and over and over again, but every time I failed, I got 4 questions wrong instead of 3 questions wrong.
That's
every single
infuriating.
time.
But holy moly, that's so many exams.
So
would it
okay,
actually have
this-
mattered though? Because you said 3 questions wrong would fail you. So
No.
you would need to get 2 or 1.
No, you needed you could get 3 questions wrong.
Oh, I see.
If
I
you
gotcha.
got 4 questions wrong, then you failed. But it was infuriating because I did study after the second time that I failed. I was like, okay, I know everything in this book. And my dad would quiz me while I was driving and he was sitting in the passenger seat.
Mhm.
Like I knew everything. But these questions are written, I don't know if they still are, but when I took it, I just felt like they were written so poorly that I would overthink them and be like, well, this is a trick answer, even though that was the answer that they wanted. Every single time, there was at least one of those questions that I was just so frustrated with by the end of the exam. So that's my learner's experience. But then getting my actual driver's license, I went in January, very close to my birthday, which is the 13th. So like in the middle of winter, I took the test once and I got 100% on the driving test. So I don't feel bad about failing my learners so many times.
Oh man, that's crazy.
There's also difference in how the learners exams are done in Alberta, correct? Like you have to pay for each attempt, or is that for your main license that you have to pay for, or is it for both? Because I know
Both.
in Saskatchewan anyways, I learned through the school system. We were given the option to go into driver's ed, and it was quote unquote free, included with our our tuition for the year. And so we took 6 weeks worth of lunch hour classes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays or something like that, and X number of hours in the simulator, which was great fun. It was just like playing a video game, except that you had
You
to
had
do
a
it. You couldn't just go ham. Oh yeah, you just couldn't go ham through traffic though, because there'd be fog levels where you had to try to navigate through the fog, and if you just drove straight as fast as you could, you'd hit the back end of a semi
I'm
and
so
fail, and then
jealous.
that would count. But yeah, anyways, so that aside, we had all of these different requirements, but in the end, it was just the main driver's exam that we had to pay a small fee, like $40 or something like that, in order to get the test for. So how expensive was it, I guess, in Alberta?
I don't know.
Because it was your dad paying?
Because my dad paid for it. I imagine that he was very frustrated with me.
Do you think your dad's awake? Do you want to call him up and just hold it up to the speaker and see what he says?
He is awake. Do you actually want me to do that?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know if he'll remember either. It was a long time ago. I'm
That's
like
fair.
31. That's like half my life ago. Over
Okay.
half.
Okay.
You've been driving for over half your life.
I've been driving for longer than over half my life. Because I'm from a farm.
Right, because she was driving illegally.
Yeah. For sure.
But back onto the topic of winter driving, out of all of us that have learned how to drive in different seasons, and we have all obviously driven in winter and in summer, and by summer I mean clear roads, and by winter I mean snow roads, whatever season that actually is in the year. And so does everybody feel relatively comfortable or confident in both seasons of driving? I don't mean that you feel like you could stop on a dime in summer and you could stop on a dime in winter. I just mean if you got thrown into a vehicle, let's say one that you knew how to use, and it was the middle of winter, would you be able to confidently drive it in traffic, or would you panic, and vice versa for summer?
I would say under normal driving conditions, like just regular winter driving conditions, yes. But when it's particularly slippery outside, like when it kind of rained recently, or it's just really, really icy that day, or there's tons of blowing snow, I have been known that as long as it's somewhere I can get to by bus, I will voluntarily take the bus from my house to get to said location, as opposed to driving, because I still have like a certain amount of driving anxiety. That being said, I have really very little reason to have a whole lot of driving anxiety, because as far as SGI is concerned, I have a perfect driving record. So contact me to license all your cars.
Because you never drive.
It's not true, but sometimes true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it would depend on, honestly, like, and this is kind of a different sort of conversation, but like what type of tires they have on the vehicle.
Sure.
I tend to be fairly confident if it's winter tires, but I have learned to not be confident if it is all season, just due to the fact that, like, I mean, we got like a new vehicle, I think now a couple years ago or a few years ago now.
2.5.
Yeah, and we got it in like February, which is kind of like getting toward the end of winter, like the end of February.
Yeah.
So really you just got like March and April to deal with. And so I tried driving with the all season tires on it. And yeah, like at the point where I did like, two 360s, like just in like a residential side street. I was like, nope, and I wasn't even going that fast. I just hit like a bad patch while I was turning into it.
Dear.
And so,
Good grief.
yeah. At that point I was like, nope, we're going to get winter tires, even though it won't be as good of a deal as if we're in summer buying them or whatever. Right. So, but once those get put on, I realized like a huge difference. And so for me, that is a night and day difference. So if I know that there's winter tires in the vehicle, if I'm familiar with the vehicle, I tend to be fairly good. Fairly confident. So
the first vehicle when I first started driving in winter, I was driving a car that had all seasons, and I had never driven a car that had winter tires until I want to say my 4th year of driving. And I drove myself to school pretty much every day, especially near the end. And I was on the highways at that point because my where I lived was just outside of the city. And I was on all seasons every single day on the highways and was totally comfortable. But I also am a very cautious driver. I get honked at like somewhat regularly because people would be like, oh, you can totally merge, like just do it. And I'll be waiting at the yield sign like a normal person. Because I don't feel like risking my life that day.
I honked at a learner driver today because they
have
were
the
not
sign?
turning.
Okay, how do you know it was a learner driver?
Because it had a sticker on the back and there was a second person in the vehicle.
Oh, golly.
Okay, the thing is, we all know at least one person, and I know several, who have kept the learner driver sticker in their back window for years and years past when they're actually a learner driver, because it gives them this buffer bubble where people don't get as mad at them and they just don't want to deal with people. And so it's just like, it's like cheating the system, but
that's like a trick that I learned when I was doing sales. I won't say where, but like,
sure.
But when I was doing sales, I was told that, okay, like you guys are new now, so you can use that as like an excuse for like not knowing things. And, you know, like, oh, I'm new. I'll find that answer for you. If you are at the job for over a year, my manager said, you can still continue to use that same excuse, because like that it's a relative term what new means, right? Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't actually mean that much. And so just keep saying like, oh, I'm new, I'll find that out for you or whatever.
What's
right?
the benefit to that though?
The benefit of that is you still look good in front of the person that you know. So if you don't know an answer, well, it's not because you didn't learn it or whatever. Like it's not because you didn't like
you're bad at your job.
Exactly. You've been there for like a year and you don't know this, you know. It kind of lessens so it just makes you a bit more relatable, a bit more approachable, and more forgivable, right? So for those kind of things. So I think it's the same sort of thing.
White Lies with Greg.
I think that
I didn't do that. At least until after 2 months. Like, I mean, yeah. So
I did not forgive the learner driver today.
I think that the difference between, I understand Greg's scenario, but I think the difference between that in driving is that in his scenario, you can say, "Oh, I don't know, I'm new. I'll go figure it out." And in driving, your excuse is, "Oh, I don't know, I'm new. I'll figure it out. Oh, wait, it's on a sign right there to my left. I can actually merge because this lane is for me only.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't have to yield." You know?
Oh. That I follow.
Okay.
If it's an added lane, I know where those added lanes
that's
are,
good.
and I will
honk
drive.
at them.
Okay.
We have one near our house, and we honk at people constantly because they're just not turning. Just turn right.
Yeah.
It's your lane. It's for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Holly, are you confident driving in the winter and the summer?
I'm very confident driving in the summer. The winter makes me nervous, not because I doubt my skills with the ice, but everybody else is so untrustworthy in the winter.
Okay.
Like if they make a mistake, it's still a mistake and that sucks, but like it's everybody's just so much more apt to make mistakes. And so like, yeah, I'll forgive you, but I don't want to do it as much. Whereas in the summer, I'm like, let's roll the windows down and have a good time. Yeah. It's great.
Wait, you don't do that in the winter?
No, it's way too cold. In the winter, I have the heat cranked and the car's like trying to keep going because it's overheating.
Do you have the pleasure of having a car with heated seats?
No, and I want it so bad.
Maybe one day.
I didn't have heated seats for the longest of time, and then when we got the new car that Greg was referencing like 2.5 years ago, it has heated seats in the front. So and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much I love this. And then we were at Costco the next winter and they had little like seat pads that you could put onto your car and then plug in to the like car plugins that they have. I forget what they're called, but it was like $20.
$20?
Best $20 ever spent. I know.
Oh, that's lovely. Christmas
so now
present.
I have a seat heater. Yep.
Taking notes.
Yeah.
It's bliss.
I think, yeah, definitely heated seats are a necessity in our, not a necessity, but they are amazing luxury if you get them in our winter driving days, because it's crazy. But what I was going to say is that I also definitely don't trust other people. Like I with that sentiment, especially during the like first snowfall, or you know, like where people are just like they've the summer sun has made their brains forget what it's like to drive in winter, and that you actually need to be cautious, and that you actually, you know, like and yeah, so they've kind of left their brain out to soak in the sun, and it's not registering. And so driving during this first snowfall is always the worst, because you know that there's going to be accidents, B, people are just driving dumb, and then and so which means that you just have to be over cautious when driving
Yeah.
around people because you know that they're not going to do what
I'm
you
always
expect.
that way. I'm always prepared.
Ashlyn's like, I'm ready.
Sometimes it's the overcautious people that cause the accident, though.
Not this one. Not yet.
That's
Knock
good.
on wood.
Not yet. For myself, I would say that I do feel possibly overconfident even for driving in the winter, strictly because that's what I did do my first couple of road tests, not like the road exam for a learner, but like a couple of drive alongs with my instructor in one of those cars that's got the brake on the passenger side floor as well, so that he can stop you, last minute if he has to. So that was an experience, but I don't think he had to use it as far as I recall. But it was in the winter time, and so those were the first times that I had really driven. I drove a quad for like 10 minutes once when I was like 12 at a cousin's farm, and he was a couple years older than me, and he was on the back, and he was holding the handlebars around my waist so that we got that extra stability because I was only 12 or something like that. And then aside from that, I didn't really drive any power vehicles, motor vehicles, until learners in school. And so I was a nervous wreck the first time or two that I took it out onto the road, because I knew the theory of hit the signal, put your foot on the brake, make sure nobody's there, turn the steering wheel, start to progress slowly, move your foot over to the gas and just ease yourself forward and blah, blah, blah. But I'd never had to like actually do it. It was just all simulation or studying. Yeah. And so doing that for the first couple of times was just bonkers nerve-wracking for me. But as a result, I launched into driving around in the summer, and I thought, this is a breeze compared to how I started out. And so ever since then, I don't love the winter by any means. Probably like you, Ashlyn. I hate the ice, just like Greg. I hate I hate the first driving. I hate driving the first time a snowfall happens in the winter, because yes, people have forgotten somehow how to drive since 7 or 8 months earlier. But yeah, it's definitely, I do feel more in control than I would say probably the average person does in the winter, just because I feel confident about it. And I think I like your mental state all has to do with how you perceive things. And so if you're confident about it, you're probably fine. But it still doesn't mean, I'm not advocating that people just take risks just because they're confident. I just want to be that clear. So
live fast, take risks.
Live fast, die young.
What I always find is at the beginning of winter, when the snowfall's coming down, I am always late for everything in my life because
yes.
It takes so much longer to get there when you have to like accelerate really slowly, leave lots of distance between you and the next person, make sure you're braking slowly so you don't just like get out of control and then are then not able to stop. And so every time at the beginning of winter, I'm like, I forget how much longer it takes to get everywhere in the wintertime because driving is so much slower. And then I think to myself, once summer comes, I'll just be like early for everything and I'll get everywhere in like 5 minutes. And then summer comes and I'm still late.
Yeah.
It's just easier.
But I think that's the key. I think that's actually what happens mostly at the beginning of winter. We make fun of it being that people have forgotten how to drive. And it's not so much that people have forgotten what to expect from winter, because people are nervous in winter and they drive slow and they drive cautiously, and there's still speed demons in the wintertime just like in the summertime. But I think it's mostly there's all of that extra space in between vehicles that you have to leave, and so people take less risks pulling into an intersection,
makes a big difference.
So less people go through the intersection before the light. And not to say that we shouldn't do that, but I think it's that timing. If we just knew, snow's coming, let's leave 15 minutes earlier for the first month that the snow is on the ground, just until we get used to it. That might not be such a big deal, but we don't do that because we sleep in. and then we sleep in later because we're like, traffic will be slow anyways. I can just blame it on that. I'm new. I didn't know the traffic was going to be so bad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's so easy to be late when you're driving in the winter, because not only does driving takes extra time, but you have to warm up your car when it's super cold outside, because or else you're just going to get in there, start breathing, and then because you're alive, you can't see anymore.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And then you have to scrape off the outside of your car, brush off all the snow. It's an ordeal. Take the bus.
Sometimes you have to scrape off the inside of your window too.
That's the worst.
Because
it's not
the nerve to breathe.
Caved, it's concaved or whatever. Like it's the different.
Yeah, it's so hard to do.
It's the worst.
And you always end up being like, oh, the scraper doesn't work. I wonder if I have a credit card I can use.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's probably bad for that.
I actually learned last year that the reason that you might get one of the reasons you might get condensation on the inside of your car is because it's running hotter than the outside of the car during the day. And so when you get to where you park in the evening, and I tried this trick right near the end of winter, and it seemed to work so like 50% of the time. So okay.
Okay.
Where you shut off the car, you crack the windows, you do like passenger front window
Mine are
and
not gonna
driver
open
back
in the
window.
wintertime.
Just crack the window like an inch or two and just let a bit of that hot air get out. You don't have to leave the doors open for hours, but just give it a minute or two and let it temperate itself. And so equalize in temperature.
Mm-hmm.
That's a movie, but
no, that's equilibrium.
Oh well, if we're talking about movies,
No.
But anyways, that's a trick that's works relatively well. And yeah, so I tried it at the end of last winter a few times, and it seemed to work okay because I was noticing that fog or that frosting on the inside of the windshield. But if you have a good blower motor and your air vents near the windshield are spaced out really nicely, which on the Chevys they don't seem to be, but on the Toyotas they were excellent, then the frost goes away instantly.
Yeah, I think for me, what I am just astounded by is every year parents will get into their cars with their newly learning to learn like teenager, and will give them the keys, will sit in the passenger seat and let them take the driver's seat, and it's winter and they don't have that nice little pedal that the driver's instructor has. Like, I don't know how parents would stay sane during that time. So like, I applaud them all. Like, you are courageous. You are truly the ones who are the heroes of winter.
No, they're risk takers with our lives.
Yes, but
rude.
At the same time though, that takes a lot of bravery. I think just in summer, it takes a lot of bravery for a parent to go on the highway with their teenager or whatever, right? So, because I think that's insane. Like, my dad always said, like, essentially cars are these like hurtling metallic massive bullets. Like, they can they can easily kill someone, right? And so we are giving you a weapon, use it wisely, essentially, right? So a potential weapon. So
we are giving you a weapon, use it to get us to the wall.
But the thing
I need some pants. Here's a gun.
Yeah.
Take left turns only, and only if there's nobody approaching the intersection from 5 blocks away.
Yeah. But I think the thing is, like, cars are such a regular part of our lives, and like when our car breaks, it's a huge deal. Like, it's like life sucks at that point. But at the same time, though, cars are a massive risk. Anytime you go into one, that your chances of experiencing some sort of accident or whatever, your risk of life goes up way higher than if you're walking or even if you were biking or if you're taking the bus, right? So like at the end of the day, like it is a huge risk, and yet we do it every day, so, and in winter, it's even more so. I still think it still is pretty crazy that we drive, like, and we still manage to get through the winter without more accidents than we do, considering us. So.
And with nice toasty bums, thanks to our seat warmers.
For the luxurious, 30% or whatever.
On high all day.
Yes.
I've never had a car with a steering wheel warmer, but
Oh, yeah.
cars just seem to get bougier and bougier all the time.
Yes.
So I have no doubt that at some point in my life, I will have the heated steering wheel, and I have a feeling that I will not be able to go back once that goes in here. I've Googled so many times how to get like a plug-in steering wheel heater thing. They don't exist right now because that's like kind of a hazard and there's not a possible way to do it right now. But eventually they're going to come up with that technology and I will buy it, or I will have a car with a heated steering wheel, and I'm just looking forward to that day already.
Yeah, we just, whenever we need a rental vehicle, that's like a treat to us. And if it's the middle of summer, Holly's like, "Ooh, seat warmers."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it was slightly chilly outside. I will turn it on high.
Keep it off. It's 21.
I still have my seat heater installed.
Well, keep your butts toasty and your streets safe. Goodbye.
Okay.
Thank goodness it's June.